I'm sorry. But I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much, feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness.
It still gives me goosebumps every time.
I love that video. I love that video. That was done, I think, by Films for Action. And they originally, this has totally brought back Bernie memories, of course, during the primary. But I saw that video and they had it to Chaplin. And I knew a previous tenant of mine had made a really cool remix of the Dexter with Chaplin in there. And so I took their video and then I spliced it up so that it could fit this other one, which has been a little bit, I mean, the pace is altered a bit. So, but I love it. It's funny though, like it's made by Bernie people, and I actually had to cut out the end of the video because it said #StillSanders. And it's not that I don't love Bernie, it's like we both love Bernie, but it's like we're also not following Bernie as because Bernie's a politician, unfortunately, and he has to say things, unfortunately, that we don't always agree with.
He shouldn't say that shit. He should really drop the Russia stuff completely.
Yeah,
it's
that was what I was thinking of.
It's horseshit.
Yeah.
And I think it's even more of a slap in the face because he was the one that was cheated. You know, the fact that he's got to go around like towing that line, just like ugh.
Yeah, the whole Russiagate, as far as I can tell, looks like it came from the Steele dossier. And I remember reading that initially, and I'm like, wow, that was written by like a 4th grader. And looks like that was used to justify spying. Yeah,
on a lot of people.
On a lot of people, so.
Because, okay, so the way that this, this FISA warrant was issued was that it was too deep. So it's the person that their person of interest is, and everybody that they're in contact with. So, it's the spying is a lot worse than you can imagine. But I think that just judging from our Facebook feeds and Twitter feeds, it seems that the topic that's on everybody's mind today is guns, gun control, and how do we stop our babies from dying? I'm a mom, so...
Yeah, with kids in school, not just a mom. Your kids go to school.
Elementary school. My son was in kindergarten when Sandy Hook happened. So, it was really hard for me to look at. It was really hard for me to even, Sandy Hook, it was hard for me to even watch the memorial service. I couldn't watch it. I just had to turn it off. It was too much for me to handle. And the demographics were virtually identical to the school that my kids went to. So for a long time you can go back and look through my Facebook. You'll find...
Not deleting anything.
Yep, yeah, you'll find more than once me screaming at somebody on Facebook saying that, your right to have a gun is not important than my right to have my kids come home from school safely, and I was kind of unapologetic about it. So my stance has changed a little bit. I don't want to take up all, you jump in whenever.
Yeah, so I wrote a Medium article yesterday, and there's a profanity warning because I'm not going to just abbreviate it. But the title effectively is, "For fuck's sake, guns are not the problem." And for me, it seems like it's much more of a long-term problem. Mm-hmm. And this, just like Take a Knee, is the end result of a long-term unaddressed problem that over time money has decided it's going to keep the populace divided because it's shockingly profitable. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we're at with guns. And I know I personally don't like them. I own one and I think it's fine, but the people who own guns and care for them as meticulously as they do generally aren't the problem, because yes, if you have a gun, your kid is more likely to use it in your own home and hurt themselves. That's a legit stat, and I think that's for gun owners, and they have to deal with that. But when it comes outside the home and it starts affecting schools, that's when we have to talk about it as a society. And I don't think you can just blame the gun. And I'm not going to live stream various ways to kill people, but it's not difficult. And if you don't have access to an AR-15, there are other ways to shoot a lot of bullets. Or if you don't have access to a gun, there are other ways to harm people.
You can always use a box cutter.
And
can we be real? Remember that?
It's not hard.
Yeah.
So the problem then becomes, why are people breaking down in society? Why are so many kids snapping? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the conversation has to happen. But it's hard to have that conversation because that is a long-term fix, and people want a fix right now. Mm-hmm. And if you are going to demand a fix from this federal government, which, I don't know, it doesn't seem like the FBI is doing a terribly credible job. At least there's a lot of open-ended questions. Maybe there's something that we don't know and they're clean and legit and on the up and up, but certainly the public has, I think, some valid questions surrounding the FBI and our government in general. Mm-hmm. And I think we want to take a really hard look before we disarm the population at the will of the federal government's hands when they've shown that level of corruption. Like, they clearly don't care about human life, given that we've been at war for 93% of our history. That's not our local government, that's our federal government. So I also posted something on Facebook saying, if you want your government to start working on gun control, work with the gun groups and your local government to get something done. If there are common sense gun legislations, I assure you, no group of people more on the planet than these ammo-sexual gun nuts want common sense gun legislation so that you are not threatening to take away their guns, because that's not going to happen. That's for them, not for me, but for them, that's their last line of defense. That is their protection, and they're not going to give it up. So I think we need to accept that as a reality.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's certainly hard because the Democrats have sold us this whole gun control is the solution. and we always get upset, as we should be, but then they've channeled that anger, and they're like, well, let's really get, let's push gun control. As you've seen every video that we just watched before this, when people are testifying about what happened, and in their grief, they also happen to say, well, we need, body scanners coming in the classrooms. I'm like, really? That's what you were thinking about?
Yeah.
And you're the expert on what gun control is going to do. Because again, if you ban AR-15s, okay, good luck getting all of them off the street, but let's say you were magically able to do that. Someone could sneak them in over Trump's wall in Mexico, or someone can 3D print something worse. I mean, if there is a will, it's not that hard in this society. So I think it's time to change the source of the problem, and that's the world treating us like crap.
Yeah. Also, does anybody really know how to, I mean, where did these guns come from? Like, did anybody think about that? Where are they coming from? Like, how do you get an AR-15? Well, I know our military has them, and I know that we can even just go to the Vegas shooting, and I'm not sure if you guys are all aware of this, but there were some other warrants issued in this case, one for the girlfriend and one for a DOD employee. Haig, I think was his name.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And so this was an arms deal. There's emails that were, I guess back and forth. It's from Paddock to Paddock, but it's really easy to just, here, give somebody your password for your other account or whatever, And so there was an arms deal going on back and forth via email, and I mean our military must have been involved in this. They knew something, and
the FBI did know something about this shooter, the alleged shooter, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what news source I saw that this morning, but
the Florida shooter. I guess 6 months ago, he left a comment on a YouTube video saying that he was going to be a famous shooter or something. So he's been on like the FBI's list, and this isn't even the first time that a shooter has been on the list. So,
no.
What are they watching? They're not acting. They know this stuff.
Like, gee, he says he's going to be a good shooter. Maybe we should see if he's bringing a gun to school today. Or again, I didn't follow this story that closely, because to me it's another shooting that just highlights the need to address the systemic problems.
Yeah.
But for this specific one, weren't people also complaining about this guy, saying, hey, we think he might do something?
The kid?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I guess there was definitely like a history. I heard there was some kind of like a domestic violence incident with him, and I've just been kind of hearing like some speculation. I also heard that the mom just died of the flu or something. I don't know, but these are just things that these are not verified. So, I think everybody's still trying to balance asking questions and respecting the families. But if I was in this situation, if I had lost a child, I'm just the kind of person that I would be asking every question until I got the answers that I needed. So to me, I guess I'm helping in my own selfish way, because this is what I would want to do by asking questions. And I think people just get defensive.
There's something very, I hate to use the word programmed, but it's certainly a learned response, where if you challenge whatever the official narrative is, you're a conspiracy theorist and you're crazy. I feel like if you're not challenging the official narrative today, that maybe you're the one that's crazy. And I don't think that's literally true, but to me, I think in today's day and age, the media has been lying us into war for so long. The media just constantly drops the ball in the news. It's not that there is a school shooting, it's that we continue to have school shootings. That's the news. Mm-hmm. And they're not addressing any problems. They're not trying to bring any groups together. And I think if you look all the way back to Reefer Madness, or you look all the way back at how long we've been at war, that it is high time we stop trusting these top-down institutions that have this much power over us.
Absolutely.
And I think that starts by having open and honest discussions wherever they happen to be. You know, you and I do it on Facebook mostly, but Twitter as well. And instead of shaming people for having a different opinion, you know, it's like if their opinion scares you or it offends you, just ignore it and move on. You don't have to address it. And if they're pestering you, just ignore them and move on. It's like, it shouldn't be that hard, but there's so much blocking going on and just saying, well, if you're even gonna think about talking to something that I know is a fact, then you're crazy. Just unfriend me now.
Unfriend me.
I'm like, what the is wrong with people? It's like, I know that I don't know, but I also know that other people don't know as well.
Yeah, nobody's an expert on this. Nobody's an expert on this shooting. You know, nobody's an expert on the Vegas shoot. I mean, you can go on. I actually wanted to share with you guys my, a story that happened. So the week of the Vegas shooting, I was getting married. So I was so far behind schedule. I had basically like shut off from social media as much as I could, just to, you know, get the last minute details of this, and it was kind of a big event, and I was doing it all by myself. So I was trying not to pay attention to the shooting as it was coming in, the information that was coming in. But so I grabbed some fabric that I needed sewn, call my sewing lady, and she comes over and starts, you know, just this, she couldn't hold it in with, you know, had to tell me all about the Vegas stuff. And it turns out it was because her daughter worked for Mandalay Bay, and she was fine, but she said that a week before the shooting, there was a guy that was kind of, she said it was a Filipino guy. I'm just, you know, keeping it real here, but I don't like to put race in it, but dressed in all black, with a black backpack by the pool. And this is Vegas, remember, so it's kind of out of place, right, to have somebody dressed in all black in a black backpack. And he's checking out the exits, right? So this lady reports this incident to security, and the security didn't do anything. And the day before the shooting, this woman comes to work, and she gets in the employee elevator, and Paddock's girlfriend is in the elevator, going up the employee elevator with a big black bag. So this is me not trying to pay attention to what was going on, and it just, there was no way I could avoid this. So then I had to like pass on this information to somebody else, you know, just so that it could keep going. But I guess I'm telling you this because this is my real life example of me watching the media lie, and I'm watching reporters get kicked out of press conferences because they ask real questions. And so
Big money doesn't want you to ask that.
Exactly. And I think we really need to be skeptical of this. This is Las Vegas. This is the most surveillanced city in the world, yet we still haven't seen video footage.
Well, you know that we know that someone was asking someone to withhold, like the Vegas police weren't allowed to withhold it, and I thought it was the FBI that said no. Mm-hmm. But then the FBI denied it or something. Like, I was just like, okay, whatever, you a-holes. It's like I can't keep up with all the lies and all the crap. But like the Vegas police said, we have video, and they weren't allowed to release it. Yeah. So really, like, I guess when I see something on the media, I automatically question it. You know, I'm not being when I hear something official from the government, I automatically assume they're lying, and I go from there. So, does that make me a conspiracy theorist? I hope so, because you know. Well, it's like, is it really? And this is kind of a George Carlin thing. Is it really that beyond the realms of acceptability that people with a lot of money meet together and conspire to figure out how to make more money? I mean, I've talked with some other friends and figure out how to do certain projects. I don't even have that much money, and there we are conspiring. We didn't tell anyone. So it's like, of course, there is someone in government that has some crime, how big or small, I don't know, to cover up. And of course, someone else has the same crime to cover up, so they will conspire to cover up. It's like, that is, of course, it would happen. I think it's absurd to say that someone's crazy to suggest that it might. It's like, yeah, I mean, to me, it's an expectation at this point.
I just want to state for the record, too, that A false flag is different than a hoax. Just throwing that out there. A false flag means people died, or that's not. A hoax means it didn't happen and it was staged. Yeah. So I've written that a million times on Facebook, but I just wanted to say it for the record that there is a difference between a hoax and a false flag.
And it's frustrating because that's so many. Oftentimes people get bogged down on whether or not it is a hoax or a false flag. And the reality is we're like, well, we don't know, but we're questioning things. Here's something that maybe make it looks like a hoax, but maybe that was BS. Or maybe here's something that makes it look like a false flag, but actually the government was just incompetent and they were trying to cover up that they were incompetent because they didn't want to scare you. And in fact, it wasn't a false flag, but something happened, but they didn't want to, you don't know. You really don't know. And I think that's the important thing, to acknowledge that we don't know, and to judge someone as being crazy because they've spent time and looked into various other things and they have other questions that you think aren't even possible. I think that that only seems to serve the elite and whoever could benefit from operating in the shadows. Whether or not you're accurate in your false flag, hoax, or whatever, the fact that you're not even allowed to talk to it benefits them.
Yeah, exactly. This is how I hold myself. I hope you guys do too. But if anybody ever, yells at me for asking a question, I always ask more questions. Always.
What don't you want me to know?
Yeah, I don't know. That's just me though. I'm gonna poke. I poke at the soft spot, I guess. But it's just strange. People shouldn't be yelling because people are asking questions.
It's absurd.
Questions are always okay.
Of the government and for-profit corporations. It's like, why do we assume that they're telling us the truth? It's like they're not financially incentivized to tell us the truth.
Nope.
It would seem like that it would be a good guess. We're getting a little bit off guns. I did want to bring that around again. And that it's not so much that I don't think guns aren't the problem at all. It's that I really believe we need to focus on making our lives better so that we are not fighting to get basic needs met. Of course, some kids are going to snap and going to have mental issues if they are raised in a stressful environment like this. And if you have more single parents, and if you have more people working, as George Bush loved to laugh at because it was uniquely American, 3 jobs, then of course they're not going to be able to spend as much time with their child. And of course their child if they're going to have issues, then they very well may act up. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of the school shootings happen around because kids are bullied, and that is also a problem that government seems to have no desire to solve. And all of those, to me, are more important to address than the ability to access a semi-automatic weapon that holds 15 rounds. That a Glock, I believe, I'm not a gun nut, but I believe a Glock holds 12. So we're going to ban AR-15s. It's like, what's to prevent the guy from buying 2 Glocks and now he's got 30? It's like, or reloading the gun. There's just so many ways. This common sense gun law. If there is some good common sense gun laws, I would love to hear it. I don't think people should have cannons on the street. I don't think people should have nuclear weapons or automatic guns and all that stuff. I think that's all legit. I also don't want the federal government saying, all right, now AR-15s are the cause of all your woes in society, so let's ban them because that's going to make the Democrats look good like they did something, because I don't think that they have our best interest in mind.
Well, I'm sure if we pass a law, criminals will follow laws, right?
That usually happens.
Criminals follow all the laws, right?
Yeah, and there's no one in government that lies to us, and none of them are criminals.
No.
So we don't have to worry about it. I mean, don't you want to make... I'm being a dick here. Don't you want to make Donald Trump's America take your guns away? Doesn't that make you... That's like, it's funny because we're asking the federal government, which is now kind of Donald Trump in some way, to limit guns. So like, that should make you scared. I'm not really trying to fearmonger because I don't think that's a fair argument. But at the same time, if Trump doesn't scare you, maybe the next person is going to scare you. Because if we keep going down this lesser of two evil path, at some point we're going to have someone worse than Trump. And do you want that person already having the pathway to, well, we got rid of AR-15s and that didn't solve the problem, so now we're going to get rid of anything that shoots more than 6 rounds? You don't know where it's going to end, and there's no logic or rhyme or reason because they're not even addressing the problem, that there's no middle class.
Right, yeah. So, I guess
that was my rant on Medium. And I feel bad because it's like I know it hurts for progressives the way, like, it feels like I'm killing hope when you talk bad about some progressive establishment. Or I was at a Democratic meeting last night and someone asked me what I thought about Obama, and I gave the most easy way I could put it, but I'm like, there are a lot of question marks on this guy's record, and there's a very good chance that he's not who he says he is. I don't want to believe it, but at the same time, we were at war for a long time, and he doesn't seem that sorry about it. And he did seem to have a lot of Goldman Sachs people in his cabinet, and he seems to be making a lot of money now because of it. And I think that warrants questions.
Yeah. I guess one more thing I'd like to add is that is the reason for the Second Amendment. You know, it's for to form a well-regulated militia, right? So it seems that the closer we get to needing a well-regulated militia, the closer they get to taking our weapons away, and that, you know, it's just something to chew on. You know, that it's, I don't know.
This is not like if the government wants to come and take you or your family, there's no amount of guns and ammo that's going to stop them. And that's not what this is about. This is about a large-scale disarming of a populace via a federal institution. And I think if you're going to restrict gun laws, that ought to be more of a local thing, because people in Montana have different needs than people in New York City. Like there's a different populace there, and there's a different environment. And I don't think AR-15s would cause as many problems in Montana as they would in downtown New York City. But I love your point, and it's almost like two large forces converging. It's like the need for a militia. It's like, okay, what are you doing, government? And the government's like, oh, okay, population, no, no, no. And then, you know, the two are eventually going to collide, with the Democrats and Republicans looking to profit off of it in some way.
Yes, exactly. I don't know if anybody left any questions. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll do a few.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, this one is, someone agrees that there's a corporate narrative on news, but when something like mass murder happens, how does that help the corporate narrative?
Wow, that's a good.
If anything, he feels it does the opposite.
Well, this is really hard because I don't sit on the board of any of these corporations, and I don't really know what they want. And if I were to speculate, I would be a conspiracy theorist. I'm guessing that they want more money and they want more control, each on an individual level and as the corporate level. Anytime there's an event, of course, the corporations like to sell that event. Can you read that question again in terms of, like, I want to make sure I get this answer right, because of course they're going to glorify the event, but he asked something further on that.
So again, it's he agrees there's corporate narrative on the news,
right.
But when something like mass murder happens, how does that help the corporate narrative?
I don't know that it does
ratings.
help. I mean, there's ratings, but it's more like, would CNN really try to prevent drama from happening, or would they be like, oh my God, grab the popcorn, drama's gonna happen, and then they get their camera ready and then they're ready to shoot. And I think that's more what it's like. So it's not that they necessarily benefit other than there's more attention. It's that they aren't really working on the team to try and prevent any of it. And that's really my problem with it. And they're certainly not going to report any trends that are disturbing for society that would affect their corporate profit. So let me talk about some. This happened when I was younger. There was a woman, a girl that was kidnapped, and there was a whole trial and all that stuff. And this was in San Diego, and they found her body, I believe, in East El Cajon.
Danielle Van Dam.
Yes, Van Dam. And from the whole time when that first started until when the trial started, there was a large increase of news reportings, I should say, of kidnapping. And then I didn't watch much, but I did watch in one segment, and they're like, oh, by the way, this doesn't mean there's more kidnappings reported. We're just reporting it. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So you basically acknowledge that you're only reporting this because this is what you think people want. But now the narrative that people are thinking is, oh my God, we're going to need the federal government to step in and do something to protect our kids, like the federal government can and like they do a good job. So this whole, it's because each group is trying to profit off of something that the truth just gets set aside, and by the government and by the for-profit industry. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you have something to add.
I was just going to say ratings. That's all I got from.
Wordy motherfucker.
Yeah.
What else we got?
This one, there's another one, but it's really for off camera.
Okay.
That's what we got.
Okay. So I also wanted to say that if you guys have any questions or want to contact me, I'm kind of overwhelmed with the messaging right now. I miss a whole lot. So if you want to direct your questions through the Danielle St. John page, the public figure page, it's a picture of me and Lee Camp, then that would be easier because I've got admins on that page that can help. So that's all.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you. And
Okay.
we will see you guys soon.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me, I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.